Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. David Orman, and you are listening to another edition of The Wellness Shot for the week of September 29th, the last couple of days of the month. Had a very interesting, simple, but interesting and powerful experience recently. So, for a couple of months now, we have lived in this particular home now, geez, about 19 years or so, 20 years. And I have wanted a new rug for the last few years. I know it's something simple, but it's something I've wanted for a while. And for whatever reason, over time, that we'll get it this time now, then something would come up. And then we'll get it now, and then something would come up. And it was a source of frustration. And I would walk in and I wouldn't see all the beautiful things. I would see that spot or that little rolled up area in the corner or something along those lines. And it would bother me, and I made a bigger deal out of it than what it really deserved. And one of my wife's friends came in, and she came into the house. Said, "Wow, what a beautiful home! I love your this. I love your that. You have space, your backyard. You have a nature preserve, all this other kind of stuff." And I started looking at things differently and beginning to appreciate things in a different way. And then she told a story of somebody from Korea. Now, the my wife's friend, they live in a townhouse. It's a two. I don't know the square footage, but I guess it would be like a two in terms of an apartment. So it's not real big, but it's not small by any means. And one of her friends from Korea came in and said, "Wow, you live in this big, beautiful, spacious," and she's hearing big and beautiful and scratching her head. And then you realize everything is dependent upon your current situation. And she started looking at things differently. And so I thought the topic of the day would be thankfulness and thanklessness and even disrespect, and how that influences our decision and what organs are responsible for those. So as time goes on, as I was mentioning the situation, I began to look at our home differently and began to feel much more appreciative of it. And the primary organ that's associated with thankfulness is the earth element, which consists of the spleen and of the stomach. The spleen is the star of the show, and the spleen is basically the organ that governs receiving, transformation, and harmonizing. So when food comes in, think of it as a traffic police officer, where the traffic, say it's a guy, say the guy says, "No, part of the traffic goes this way, you need to stop, and this lane goes this way," so it directs. So to simply stated, the spleen is like that for food. It basically tells the food, so to speak, where to go. So the nutrition will be extracted in this area, will be absorbed in the small intestine, or this is waste product. Let's begin that process. The spleen is what is responsible for that. So when the spleen is strong, everything is right with the world. But when the spleen is weaker, you get digestive problems, you get abdominal distension, big belly, you get you start to talk like this, and when somebody asks you a question, it sounds more like singing. I'm exaggerating, but not that much. You also get obsessive thinking, hamster wheel thinking. I can't get rid of that thought, and now I'm thinking about the thought. Now I'm thinking about the thought of the thought, and what about that thought? What that type of ba 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 ba, where it never ends. That is a spleen issue, and when you can strengthen the spleen, strengthen the stomach, you'll find that gratitude, appreciation, they become natural byproducts or extensions of the spleen, where it reflects contentment, where it reflects nourishment. When the spleen is strong, a person feels very centered. They feel very generous. They're able to give. They're very generous people. They give thanks not only to the individuals but to Mother Life herself, so to speak. They're usually very generous, not only with their finances, they're generous with their time. Or somebody will say, "Oh, I really love your pen," and you know what, here, you have it. You seem to value it and love it. It's my gift, it's my opportunity. When you see imbalances, weakness, of the spleen. You'll see not only what I mentioned, overthinking, but you get constant worrying, you get sugar cravings, and you get sluggishness of the whole metabolism, particularly digestion. And the one that I want to mention is the specifically the feeling of lack of gratitude, thanklessness, ingratitude basically could be the ideal word. And you'll find a person saying phrases like, "It's not enough." This isn't enough. No matter what they have, it's not enough. There's always that discontent. And this is considered not only a weakness of the spleen, but in Chinese terms, they call it a dampness of the spleen, where the spleen feels heavy and sluggish when it should be vibrant and lighter. So instead of gratitude, it's being replaced by things like rumination, dissatisfaction, and endless cravings. So not only for food or for sugar or for junk, but endless cravings for stuff. The person who has 83 pairs of shoes, and then they'll say, "Well, I have nothing to wear on my feet." And things that don't really sync up. So there are supportive herbs and there are supportive measures that will help to strengthen that spleen, to flip gears from that um, uh, thanklessness, the ingratitude, flipping gears, which in fact, when you do that, it has a dramatic effect on the body. That's when weight loss starts to occur. That's when sugar cravings start to decrease. That's when a person feels more vibrant and lively and they want to go out and be active and that kind of stuff. There is an herb called hyssop, Hyssop, which is arguably the best, or certainly one of the best for strengthening the spleen. As I mentioned in prior videos, the Bagua course that I have, because you get so much twisting and so much slow, exaggerated movement of the waist, you are bound to help with your digestion, particularly with the spleen. And there is also, I'll be releasing a course in a week or two. There is also particular sound. Yes, sound that is associated with all of the organs. There's a sound and a movement, of course. So when the body moves in a particular direction, it's almost like you're going in a circle like this. And in martial arts, they'll call this a rolling back fist, where you have your left hand in front, your right behind, and you're going in a clockwise direction. So it's as if the left hand is knocking your opponents down and you're throwing a back fist. That's for the fighting part. This is for the healing part, where it's just a slow movement like this. And then, of course, they go into much more detail. And the sound is who, H-O-O. And you make that sound like this, who. So it sounds like if you were to spell it, it would be W-H-O-O-O-O-O-O, etc. And then there's other specific movement. But just that sound alone makes a huge difference, reducing the amount of sugar, reducing the amount of simple carbohydrates, and also increasing protein will do that. To a lesser degree, reducing fruit with the exception of pineapple. Yellow fruits are associated with strengthening the spleen. The spleen, each organ has a color associated with it. The color of the spleen is yellow. So even wearing yellow, being in the sunlight is also very beneficial. It is a spectacular feeling to go from thinking you don't have enough or what you have isn't good enough to, wow, I have it made. Life loves me and I love life. And together we're a team and we're going forward. That's what the spleen strengthening can do. Again, you've been listening to another episode of The Wellness Shot. My name is Dr. David Orman, and I will see you next week.